No Man's Sky. Convergence 2019. Contests. Travelers wanted for the completion of tasks. There are 6 contests with prizes to be won. Contest 1. Convergence Appearance Modifier. Best Cosplay. Contest 2. Wonders of Earth. Best Build. Contest 3. No Man's Sky Fan Creation. Best Art Project. Contest 4. In the Eye of Atlas. Best Screenshot. Contest 5. Sounds of Space. Best Music Video. Contest 6. The Things I Have Seen. Best Mixed Media Picture. Good luck, traveler.
Greetings all, Shardvixen here. I'm having a hair thing going on. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I think it's from not washing my hair last night. Just okay. We'll just leave it alone. That's the best we can do with it. So today's topic, warning, could be triggering. So if you get triggered, I will have a national hotline up there for you to call somebody and talk to them about it. We're going to talk about sexual assault versus rape, which really, it's not versus. It's just there's sexual assault, and it can overlap into rape, and then there's rape. And both have a big deal of consent attached to them. So, because I don't think having somebody rub their penis all over me standing in front of a line to go someplace is something that, you know, if they asked me, I would be like, yeah, sure, I don't know you, asshole, go ahead, rub all over me. And you're like, oh, that's not happened. Yeah, that happens. I've had it happen to me quite a few times, especially in darker areas. Sometimes people pawn off that they're drunk and or it was all in good fun. Yeah, it's all fun until somebody decides to kill somebody for it. But anyhow, I'm going to give you a real quick definition of what sexual assault and rape is. And then I'm going to be talking mostly about me. And maybe we'll, why people all of a sudden seem like there's so many sexual assaults coming out. I think it's like, I'm going to address that one first. I think it's like everything else. So we always have had sexual assault. But people have determined it, have seen it differently and talked about it differently. And for the most part, for me, I don't know about anybody else. I don't know about in different places, not of the United States, because this is just about me in the United States. I was born and raised in California. And this is mostly about Northern California style stuff. Maybe it's different someplace else, maybe not. I've talked to many people as an adult and advocate for sexual assault survivors and rape survivors, and have said, and we kind of come up with the same thing. When I was growing up, it was my fault if I got unwanted sexual attention. It was not the fault of the person who was doing it, ever. And a lot of times, it was people in power who were doing it, like parents, police officers, teachers, people who had the power to tell people, oh no, they're lying. And, girls didn't really want to come forth because if it's your fault for wanting the unwanted attention, somehow you must have made that person decided they wanted you for whatever reason. And then you didn't go through with it, or you went through with it, but you didn't really want to go through with it, then that was your fault. So, because good girls didn't engage in that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. There was that one that not Tatum O'Neal. Why am I thinking of her? Jodie Foster did. Sorry. which I can't remember the name of it right now, but that was pretty much how people viewed her, and what was going on was pretty much how it had been said to me. If I wore a miniskirt and was in a place that had really nasty reputation, then I kind of deserved what I got. And that was always kind of a hard thing to deal with. Now, first time I got raped, yes, I'm sorry, it's happened twice, and a couple of sexual assault things. Plus, I have a history of a sexual assault when I was a child, because it wouldn't be sexual abuse because it wasn't continuous, as far as I know. I mean, it may have been, but I don't have memory of it. I only have memory of one event, and then I did not associate or did as best I could to hide from that person. Of none of those times did I ever report the events, because I knew no one would believe me, one, and two, they would say, well, it was my fault. So I kind of even thought it was my fault for a long time, because that's just how I was taught or raised. Even in high school, I went to women clinics for self-defense, and I started to learn it wasn't my fault. There still was that underlining, I can't talk about it because what if people do think it's my fault? And I think, so because of that, I think that's why in the past we didn't hear as much about it, and now we're hearing about it, because people are ready to hear about it. Now, people might still think it's the woman's fault, or whoever is getting attacked, because I'm saying it from a woman's point of view, but the reality is anyone can be raped, and anyone can be sexually assaulted, and anyone can be sexually abused. Sexual abuse is usually for describing sex to children under the age of 18 in the United States, unless they are developmentally delayed, and then it could be any age, but they're still viewed as a child even though they are an adult. Because of that, the first time it happened to me was very confusing for me, and I'm not talking about sexual abuse, because I knew what was going on. I was about 11 or 12, and I realized that even though I didn't know why the adult person was wanting me to touch them, I knew that it wasn't a good thing. That's not what people do between adults and children, and especially adults who are supposed to be taking care of children. So I kind of knew that, and I ran away. I just kind of hid, and then I waited. The person was watching me for my parents. And there was so much other stuff that went on in my life, so much other dysfunctional stuff, that was just kind of the added ingredient in the weirdness of my life as growing up. I just kind of, later on when I was a teenager, I started having sexual assault issues with other teenagers and men. And again, I was told it was my fault, or it was suggested it was my fault. So even though I would tell people, the way you treated me, I'm going to tell my dad and he's going to come back and get you, I would be in as much trouble as the person, because my father would have seen it as it was my fault, because it's always the woman's fault. That's just, even my mother, to a degree, if she talked about, my mother really kind of avoided any sexual conversation with me, so that wouldn't have been something she'd talk about anyway. And no teachers, you couldn't go and talk to teachers about it, because everyone shied away from that conversation. If you were underage and there was some type of sexual assault or abuse going on, people really tried to maneuver you away from actually ever saying it, because the moment you said it, they had to take responsibility for it. I will be showing a hotline off and on through this video, because sometimes when you hear about somebody else talking about something that had a big, huge traumatic event in your life, it triggers you. And the triggering is good to a degree, but only if you do something about it. If you ignore it, which is why we all get triggered, because we ignored it, sometimes it can add to it. The pain of these things is long past for me. Okay, so I learned to live with it, then I learned to deal with it, and then I learned to accept it, and then I learned to forget about it. I don't think I ever learned to forgive about it, because I'm not really sure that I have anything to forgive about it. It's, they have to have seeked it out, and I doubt the people that had done it really ever cared or learned their lesson. I think that some of them would have been very hard to press to think of it as rape and or sexual assault, because they didn't see it that way. They just saw it as the same way the rest of saw it, is that it was somehow my fault. Well, she enticed me. Well, she wore a miniskirt. Well, she was flirting with me. Well, she wanted it. Well, she really liked it, even though she didn't say she liked it. Only those people, I think, who, and even, maybe they don't, but those people who target and use rape as a sexual violence, I think even they know to a degree of what they did, but I don't know. I mean, I've talked to people who have been arrested for it in learning court mandatory therapy, and a lot of them still hold on to that whole, well, it wasn't really my fault. We were all drunk. We didn't know what we were doing, kind of thing. The only thing I think about is that, should we be punished for things we do in the past and they come to the future? Maybe just by bringing them out, to me, that's enough of a punishment. I think that if we want to stop that type of stuff, we need to figure out a way to connect everyone. Everyone has to know their part in that process. The predator and the victim. Everyone kind of needs to know and understand what's going on. Society needs to accept the fact that sometimes our beautiful sons aren't so beautiful, or our beautiful daughters aren't so sweet, and that there is no gender to rape or sexual assault. I mean, people who are bisexual, people who are homosexual, people who are transsexual, people who are pansexual can still have sexual assault. They can still have rape. So the definitions of sexual assault is that it covers everything that rape doesn't. Rape, as of 2012, the FBI changed the actual definition of rape. And rape, as of 2012, is penetration. If these words bother you, you won't want to watch any more of this. Is penetration, and it doesn't matter how deep or how far or how fast or how, anything. It's how slight. It's penetration of the vagina or the behind anus. I just hate that word, anus. I don't know why. It's just bleh. The butthole. However you want to talk about it. People like to say the asshole. Asshole, too, seems very crude to me. Sorry, tangent. With any body part, including sexual organs or object. Okay? Or any oral penetration with sexual object, body parts, by one person to another person without that person's consent. Okay, so that's rape. And then sexual assault is everything on top of that. So you can rape somebody, but also have sexual assault. One has a higher, like I said, one has a higher punishment than the other, and I don't remember which one. So sometimes they'll only go with one type and not the other. Sometimes the victim only wants to center on one and not the other. When it first happened to me, I was 17 years old, and the person that did it to me, I had a crush on. So we were all hot and heavy. We were kind of doing some stuff, and then I said I was not very interested in that, and it was ignored. And we were in a position that I didn't feel like I could yell help. We were in a position where I felt extremely ashamed, and I didn't want anybody to know what was going on, so I just kind of kept my mouth shut, and when it was done, I got away as soon as possible. The problem was, it was in my own house. It was during a party. Well, actually, it was an after party. Everybody was sleeping. We were all sleeping together in a big area. So I felt very cornered. and ashamed and unable to, really talk to anybody. The next morning, though, I kind of fixed that. I told that person that I never wanted to see them again and that what they did was wrong, and you never, ever make somebody do something they don't want to do. Ever. No matter who you are. I suppose you could argue that, well, the police make you do things you don't want to do. That's true, but at that point, you've already, if you were being arrested or were, running away from something, you've already kind of made a different thing. But really, if a person says, no, stop, please stop. No, I'm not liking that. I don't care. I want you to stop. You should stop. That person chose not to. And so thus I was raped and sexually assaulted. And I didn't like it. Because I'm sorry to say. It didn't have a good effect on me. Because I cared for that person. The next time it happened to me, I was close to 18. So it's within the same time period. And that I was drunk and got attacked in a field. That didn't have rape. That was more sexual assault because I beat the hell out of the guy that was doing it to me. He was probably drunk too, but it was very scary and I was really drunk, so I don't remember much about it except laying in the dirt. And then after that, I didn't really have much bouts with it because I started learning more about it and I started learning how people target you. I've started learning how people will they look for people to attack. Sometimes they'll follow you for long periods of time. Sometimes they hunt you out and pick you out. I think the time period that I was a teen in the 80s, there was an awful lot of that going on. And nobody was saying anything because people wouldn't believe you. If I had said something, the first thing that would have been was, why were you at a party? That would have been the first thing out of everybody's mouth. Or, I thought you liked him, would probably have been the second one. Well, how can it be, if you didn't say no, I did say no, but if you didn't say no, how can that be construed as, maybe it's a big understanding, maybe you just misunderstood. Yeah, how do you misunderstood something like that? I'm not going to go into graphic details of it. The second one was more violent, and I had bruises, I had a bloody nose, I think one of my teeth got knocked loose, I lost, they broke my, I've always had problems in my mouth. I had a retainer that had teeth on it, and that got broken. I had to have it fixed. But I didn't report that one either. And again, because the conversation would have been, well, why were you drunk? You're underage. Why were you out at night past curfew? There'd been no conversation about that person. Why did that person do that? Why did that person, that's wrong of that person. That wouldn't have never been the conversation. It would all have been about me and me being incorrect about what I was doing. I've had since then, don't get me wrong, I've had people be threatening towards me because that's part of sexual assault. People can threaten you with a sexual assault, or they can threaten that they're going to do something. And I had learned that most people, if you stand up to them, a person's going to hurt you is going to hurt you. But if you stand up to that person, a lot of times they think about it. If they're pissed off and already starting in their thing they're going to go do, and they have the advantage, then you're screwed. But if you can get the advantage, then you're okay. And fighting back is always a choice. Even if a person says to you, I'm going to kill you if you don't do this, you have to weigh that out. Probably they're going to kill you anyway. That's how I look at it. So you might as well get your kicks into it. I've been lucky. I was in the same area going to school when there was a rash of people that were being kidnapped in their cars at knife point and then raped, and then eventually he started killing them, but he let a couple of them go at first. And then that's what's called a serial rapist, who also wants to kill you in the process. I was also lucky, I think it was in my 20s, and they had another serial rapist that was going in and breaking in windows and getting into people's houses. And I was really lucky because I was living on my own at the time. The after effects of those kind of things is that you look at people differently. All kinds of people. I don't trust women myself, and not because I've been sexually assaulted by women, but I've been mentally abused by women. And then I don't trust men I don't know either, because there's always those two things when you're in a place. So crowds of people, even though I love being around people and I enjoy and I have fun, crowds of people at times can get very stressful for me, especially if I start to get that paranoia, and then they're not looking at me, that's got a smile on their face and look like they're friendly. That's a problem. Charming men too are very problematic for me. In my past, charming men usually are leading you up to somewhere down the road that you might not want to go to. And a lot of that can have sexual assault in it, because they'll say, I didn't know that was sexual assault. Well, you touching me when I say no, you, like I had a guy, I went to a dance. My daughter was small, and I was invited to a online dating dance. It was a bunch of people that were in online dating, and we showed up. And there was a guy there who, for whatever reason, decided I was his dream boat or whatever. And he kept coming up and touching me on my elbow and steering me places. And I kept telling him to stop touching me, which is assault. But then it started to be, when he touched me, he would rub against my breast, or he'd pull me closer to him and, really kind of put his body into my body, and then say, oh, let's dance. And I'd be like, I'm not, And I finally had to tell him, look, guy, you don't stop, I'm calling the police. And he's like, why? What for? It's just a party, bud. We're having a good time. No, I'm not having a good time with you. You keep touching me. I need you to stop. And he got a little belligerent, said he was going to, well, I'll show you what sexual assault is. And I'm like, well, that right there is going to get you in trouble. And then, he finally backed out and went and found, I guess, somebody else to torture. I don't know. But one of the greatest things I was ever taught, and to me still helps a lot when I get overly paranoid or I'm someplace I get stressed about people, is it took a self-defense class, which I already knew other types of self-defense. But I took a self-defense class, and the teacher, a gentleman, said the best thing in the world you can do when somebody is treating you in a way you don't want is throw up on them. I was like, that's cool. I can't throw up on command, but I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, few people want to keep going through if you're puking on them. I'm like, unless they're drunk, maybe. But for the most part, yeah, that seems to work. That and picking your nose. You pick your nose and, rub it on them, or, just be. If you be overly gross, a lot of times the reason they were picking you is they had an ideal in mind. And if you're overly gross, a lot of times people aren't interested. That doesn't help with the psychoticness of people. Psychoticness, there is no rhyme or reason, and you might end up making them more attracted to you. Anyway, if in any part this was triggering for you, like I said, call the hotline. You can talk to people there. This is a hotline. It's designed for the survivors of sexual assault and rape. If you want to chat with me, you can always find me in my Discord. You can find me on Twitter as Shardvixen, and you can send me a message as well. A lot of people don't want to talk about this, because when you talk about it, there are people that come out of the woodwork to torture you for talking about it. I don't really care. If you're one of those kind of people that feels this need to torture me because you think I'm a victim, I'm going to explain to you I am not a victim, and I will call the police. So, that's the way that goes. I don't think any of my viewers are that way, so I don't have to worry about it. But, the once you put something out there online, it can happen. It's a sad thing. It's a hard thing, and we really need to stop blaming the victim. We really need to listen to the victim. I know now it seems sometimes, is the victim really telling the truth? Well, that's the whole reason we have a jury. That's the whole reason we have stories. That's the whole reason we sit and try to figure it out. Anyway, so that's my take on it. I just wanted to share it with you. And the next topic, of course, will be much happier. I try not to give you guys too many depressing things. I know it seems like I have a lot of depressing parts in my life, but I have a lot of happy things in my life, too. And, I think the next one is just a rambling 101. Catch y'all on the flip side.